This is Amy Chan from CakeDecoratingSchool.com, and if you like cake decorating, you're in the right place. Welcome to our flower series. In this video, we're going to be piping beautiful, frilly, ruffly buttercream gardenias. We'll cover all the steps, and the video will be broken down into segments so you can rewatch or skip ahead as desired. We'll cover mixing your color, the bags and tips that we've used, the techniques, how you use those techniques to build your blossoms. We'll pipe it on a flower nail, and finally we'll finish up by practicing on a cupcake. So let's make the color for our gardenias. Now normally gardenias, you're usually going to see them in white because that's actually the most common color they come in nature, but since that doesn't really read well on camera, we're going to do a nice golden sunny yellow because they also come in yellow as well. So we're going to use some lemon yellow liquid gel, and also some sunset orange. You'll have to excuse the label on this one, it gets a lot of use. And I've just got a little bit squeezed out here because they're both, we don't need a lot. It's a really light kind of golden yellow color. So we want to do primarily that lemon yellow and then just a little bit of that sunset orange to give it a nice warm feel. So I'm just going to start with a couple of big specks of that lemon, probably 6, and just 1 of that orange, just to kind of give it that nice sunny feel. Make it a nice kind of butter yellow. And I want that color to read on camera, so I'll probably do it a little darker than they come in nature. It's actually a really light color, but you can make these in any color you want. You can go with a very traditional classic white, you can do them in yellow. They also come in a variety of pinks, purples, and reds. So gardenias are a beautiful flower, and I like the way that's going. I'm just gonna bump it up a tiny bit, just to make sure it's easy to see all the details we're going to create with the petals and the wonderful, beautiful ruffles and the different shapes of petals that we're making. And I think that's going to be a lovely, beautiful, buttery yellow to make our gardenias in. So for our gardenias, we're using one 12-inch decorating bag. It's a disposable bag. We have it fitted with our tip, which is a 124K. So you can see it's one of those Korean tips, so it has that nice skinny opening there. And it's going to give us really frilly, ruffly, beautiful, kind of organic, natural looking petals. So each one will be kind of unique. So it's a great tip. If you don't have this, you could use either a 104 and make a slightly smaller version of this gardenia, or you could use a 125. Just be aware that the petals will have more weight if you're using those traditional tips. So let's talk about the different techniques we're going to use to create our gardenia. So again, we're using our 124K, and I've got it loaded up on my bag, and we're going to create some longer petals that have more of a diamond shape to them. And to do that, when we're on our flower nail or on a cupcake or whatever surface, you're going to take that fatter end of the tip is going to be towards the center of the nail, the skinny end pointing out, and we're going to just draw almost a diamond shape. And I'm going to spin my tray a little bit. Oh, there we go. Just to get it to go because I'm not on my nail, so it's a little unnatural, right? And then for the shorter petals, we're going to do that traditional kind of teardrop shaped petal. So we're going to do out, spin, and back to get that nice natural kind of petal shape. So these we want a little more diamond shape, these we want a little more teardrop. And then finally we're going to do what I call unfurling petals. These are spiraled in the center, and we're actually going to do them with the tip straight up and down. And because we'll have those outer rows of petals there first, it'll kind of support and help keep these up. They might flop around a little bit. Don't worry about that. It's basically just holding the bag straight up and down and squeezing while you spin the nail. And that's going to give them a little bit of a curl to them. And we're going to kind of do them so that they're nested around. And we'll talk a little bit more about that in just a moment. So now that we've talked about the different techniques, let's talk about how we put them all together. So let's talk about building our blossoms. We're going to do our diamond shaped petals first. We're going to do about 6 to 7 of them. And you'll notice that underneath each one, I'm going to pipe just a little line of frosting, and that's going to be a support. And so then my petal will lay across that line, and it's going to give it a kind of curved or cupped shape, right? It's going to give it a nice, I'm going to call it kind of like convex feel to it, just to help give these flowers a little more life. Once I do a nice ring of those, and I'd probably take about 6 or 7. You can let them overlap, and that'll give them a more natural feel. We want to take our bag, we're going to hold it straight up and down, and we're going to pipe a ring kind of at the base of those diamond-shaped petals. This is going to act as a support for our teardrop-shaped petals and help them flop over and give a nice feel to it. So once we have that ring in place, we'll go ahead and pipe those teardrop-shaped petals over top of it. And it'll probably take about 5 or 6 to do the full circle. Again, let them overlap. It'll make it look nice and natural. And this will kind of build up the flower on the outside edge of our nail and leave us with a little bit of a void or a dip there in the center. That's where we want to do those kind of upright unfurling petals. So you can see I've kind of mapped out how I'm going to draw them. It's 2 little kind of C shapes really quickly, and you'll notice that they're nested in between each other. It makes kind of like a little S curve. So I'm going to do one and then go in the middle of it to do the next one. And then you'll have this nice little kind of trumpet almost in the center, and we'll go ahead and surround it with some short petals. It usually takes me about 3, sometimes depending on exactly how I pipe it, maybe how big I made my ring or how small. It might take more or less. You might just need that little S curve in the center and then not need those additional outside petals. Sometimes I need more than 1 row of those. If I'm piping a big blossom, say maybe on a cupcake, and I have more space than I do on my nail. And for those little outside petals beyond that little S curve in the center, a lot of times instead of straight up and down, I'll angle it out so that the tip is more towards 1 o'clock, and that'll give it a nice opening feel. So you have that nice kind of interlocking S-curve deal in the center, and you have these short kind of flat petals that are kind of furling open, and then you have those beautiful teardrop and diamond one shapes on the outside. So it's a simple flower in terms of we're just using 1 color in the same bag, but we're using it in different ways to create different effects and different shapes of petals, and when you put them all together, it makes a lovely gardenia. So let's start working on our nail. We're going to pipe our gardenias, and I just want to put a little bit of a support there on the outside edge of the nail. So right almost at the end, it's a good judge of where to go. And I'm going to start that end at the center, pull out, spin around, and pull back. And you can see that leaves me with a beautiful petal. Don't worry if you have a gap there, it's not a problem. We're going to cover it up as we go because we're going to build a big flower on top of that. So I'm just going to keep going. Nice and big, nice and slow. Let it go past, right? I find the slower I go, the easier it is to actually make those nice, beautiful ruffled petals and to close up that center. And our goal is to get 6 or 7 of them on there, so you really do have to overlap them. And just giving it a little bit of support there every time. Just to make sure that they curve over a little bit, and it gives them just a little more body. So I have 5, and it's probably going to take me 6 to go all the way around. It's fine, 6, 7, whatever works, even if you need more. Just nice and slow, create those nice diamond-shaped petals. Once we're done with that, I'm going to go so that there's about 1 inch or maybe like a 1/2 inch out, and I'm just going to draw a nice little ring there. And if you need to, do a second one. You want it to have just a little bit of height, and we're going to draw those teardrop shaped petals we talked about over top of it. And I'm going to start in between 2 of my big ones. And you can see that allows them to flop over it and gives them some height, dimension, and really allows them to curl and do some beautiful things. And it only took me 5 to get all the way around. And you can see by piping that ring, it's really started to give these thin petals some body and give the flower some dimension. You can see it kind of has that little hump to it, and then we have that nice little void in the center where we're going to do those upright petals. And this part can be a little tricky. Don't worry too much about if you bump into some other stuff or other petals. just go straight up and down, pipe a nice little half circle, and then start in between the middle of that half circle and do another one. Oh, there we go. Sometimes they flop over on me. And then we're just gonna go around the outside edge of that half circle and pipe some other beautiful little flat petals. And you can see that gives us a wonderful, beautiful flowering gardenia. It has that height in the middle, and those beautiful petals, they kind of unfurl and spiral out in the center. So now that we've practiced on our flower nail, let's try on a cupcake. We've got our bag ready to go and our little cupcake. And I'm just gonna start the way I did on my flower nail. Give myself a little bit of frosting to help support those petals. And I'm gonna draw those nice kind of diamond-shaped petals on the outside. And if they're not all the way closed in the center, don't worry about it, because we're gonna do so many petals on top of them and it's gonna cover up those middles and just the tips are gonna show. And this is one of those ones that I like doing on cupcakes because they're big and they take up the full area, and you can really let the petals flop over the edge and you get a nice seal because the entire surface of the cupcake is covered. So just keep working, do as many petals as you need to. To cover up that surface. And don't be afraid to let them curl, knock into each other, flop over, or even flop back on you. Every once in a while, though, I find it's useful just to clean off the tip. So once I'm covered, you can see I've got those great petals all over the surface. I'm just gonna go about 1/2 inch from the center and do that ring. Since I'm not on my flower nail, I just give it a little twist and then go back over. And sometimes I like to double up on this. That'll give you extra height. It allows those teardrop shaped petals to kind of flop over and gives them just a little bit of support and helps to give the flower some shape and dimension. So I'm just gonna start in between 2 of my big petals and pull just that classic, quick teardrop in the smaller shape. And just really let them fold over. So out, twist, and then back in. Wonderful. And you can see it gives it some volume doing 2 of those little rings, and it really allows those flowers to kind of open up. For these upright petals, just 2 quick interlocking little C curves. So just start piping straight up and down and spin. Sometimes I just need to manipulate a tiny bit with the tip while I'm doing it. You can see that gives us a nice little interlocking shape. And then I'm just gonna go and fill in anywhere it needs it. Nice flat petal, kind of rock the tip out so it's at like 1 o'clock instead of straight up and down. And that'll fill in any gaps you have. And you can see we get a beautiful buttercream gardenia with those wonderful ruffly unfurling petals. If you enjoyed this video and you'd like more, try checking out some of the other fun flowers we've covered in our flower series, or some of our fun, easy, simple cake decorating videos. If you enjoyed this video and you'd like more about the cake decorating materials and equipment we use, or just some inspirational videos about cake decorating itself, you can follow us on Insta or YouTube at Cake Decorating School. If you'd like to know more about yearly membership and what it entails, you can go to www.cakedecorating.school.com for more information. And if you're interested in these products, you can check the links in the description.